Hello, my name is Ellen Mukwewa. I am a school improvement consultant at Marel Consulting Limited. This is episode 2 of what I intend to be a series titled Just a Little Something. A few weeks ago, I started the series, and it will be covering some things that some leaders of independent schools overlook, omit, misunderstand, or fail to address when it comes to meeting the all-important independent school standards. This series will not go through the standards in any sort of order, and special requests are welcome, so please get in touch. Before we begin, a bit of advice. If you are the proprietor or a governor or a trustee, head teacher, senior leader at an independent school, please make the time to read the Education Independent School Standards Regulations. You will find this document online. Make sure that you read the latest available revised version, because when you Google it, it'll take you to the original version, which was created in 2014. There have been many updates since then. I would also advise you to read the DFE's guidance document called Independent School Standards Guidance for Independent Schools. This gives you a bit more clarity about the requirements of most of the independent school standards. Now, I'm going to borrow a disclaimer that the DFE uses in this guidance document and say, what I share with you today is not purported to be definitive guidance on the meaning of the standards themselves. Only a court can give that. Great, so let's jump in. Today we're looking at paragraph 34. Paragraph 34 is about the quality of leadership in and management of schools. This is the standard which most schools fail to meet. When you look at inspection and statistics and look at compliance with the standards, you can actually see a breakdown of how many schools were inspected for each type of inspection, how many met the standards, how many did not, broken down to the last sub-paragraph. Anyway, when you look at all of that information, paragraph 34 is the paragraph that most schools fail to meet. Why is that, you might wonder? That's because two of the sub-paragraphs under this standard, number 34, require leaders and managers to ensure that the independent school standards are met consistently. Therefore, anytime a school fails to meet any of the other independent school standards, they have also failed to meet paragraph 34. Now, I know some of you are thinking, does this mean if all the other standards are met, then standard 34 is automatically met? Unfortunately, no, absolutely not. First, there is the issue of consistency. The requirement is that the standards are met consistently. So it is not just about demonstrating compliance on the day of inspection. It is about having systems in place for ensuring consistent compliance. Systems that are being implemented, not just on paper, so that it's clear that school leaders, that the proprietor, that governors, that trustees are always acting to ensure compliance, so that there is a track record of meeting the standards. Consistency is also an issue when a school that has been inspected previously and failed to meet the standards work very hard, address all the standards, and at the time of inspection are found to have met all the standards that they did not meet at the last inspection. That is great news, and that is really positive. But sometimes, even when that happens, schools turn out not to be meeting standard 34. And that is because the actions that they've taken are recent actions. If they've developed systems for making sure that standards are met consistently, those systems are also new. Not enough time has passed for inspectors to be able to see that, definitely standards are going to be met consistently. So it is possible to meet all the other standards and still fail to meet standard 34. So outside of consistency, there are other considerations that affect compliance with standard 34. Although the two sub-paragraphs I referred to earlier both end with the phrase, so that the independent school standards are met consistently, they actually begin differently. The first one requires leaders and managers to demonstrate good skills and knowledge appropriate to their role so that the independent school standards are met consistently. And then the second subparagraph says, it requires leaders and managers to fulfill their responsibilities effectively so that the independent school standards can be met consistently. I'm going to give you some examples of what this means. And I'm going to use information that I've extracted directly from some Ofsted inspection reports. Yes, I spend some of my time looking at inspection statistics and reading inspection reports, in case you were laughing at that. Anyway, today I looked at progress monitoring inspection reports in which all the other standards were met except paragraph 34. And these are some examples of what I found. And I'm quoting here. First example. Unmet standards in parts 1, 2, 3, and 5 are now judged to be met. Leaders have the capacity to continue driving improvement. They have responded with vigor and consideration to the findings of the previous inspection. Many improvements are new, and some are particularly recent. It is too soon to judge that the requirements of the standards are consistently met. Therefore, paragraph 8 remains unmet. Paragraph 8 is the section that contains standard 34. So that was example number 1. And that one is about consistency. I have 2 more examples for you. Here's the second one, and I'm quoting again. However, although leaders have been successful in focusing on improving some aspects of the school, especially safeguarding arrangements, they are not demonstrating the knowledge required to meet all the independent school standards consistently. Leaders are still not paying sufficient attention to detail. For example, amendments had to be made during the inspection to resolve inaccuracies in policies and to ensure website compliance. So that's, another clear example of non-compliance. But this time, the school did not comply with paragraph 34 because leaders failed to demonstrate knowledge and skill appropriate to their role. It wasn't just about consistency. And then the third example, I'm quoting again, governors' roles in holding leaders to account are at an early stage of development. They are too accepting of what leaders tell them about the school's work. For instance, at a recent I'll just keep going. At a recent governing board meeting, no questions were asked about the school's improvement plan, which had been circulated well in advance of the meeting. So there you go. That's the final example. Here, leaders have failed to meet the requirements of paragraph 34 because they did not fulfill their responsibilities effectively. So it's not just about consistency. It's also about knowledge and skills. to do with your role and to do with the standards, and also fulfilling your responsibilities effectively. I didn't mention the other sub-paragraph under, standard 34 because, the series is not about covering all the standards. It's just about looking at where most people fail. And that one, most people do really well. It's about pupil well-being, so it's fine. So, I guess you're thinking, so what am I supposed to do about this now? I have a few suggestions. When it comes to the knowledge and skill part, which is appropriate to the role, I have a few questions. Are leaders at your school qualified and do they have the necessary experience to fulfill their role? What additional training do they need? Or do you need to recruit to add specific expertise to the team? Do the governors or the proprietor have the collective expertise required to fulfill governance functions? Have you completed a skills audit? What additional training do they need? Or do you need additional governors to add specific expertise? And then regarding knowledge and skill about the independent school standards, as a minimum, please take my advice given at the beginning of the episode. Read the independent school standards legislation and the DFE guidance as a minimum. You can also register to attend one of our training workshops, which is about how to ensure consistent compliance with the standards. I will share a link at the end of this, but you should manage to get on well just by reading the guidance and the standards themselves. Also, in terms of fulfilling responsibilities effectively, is the performance of school leaders evaluated by suitably qualified and experienced governors and proprietors? Are governance meetings being used to hold leaders to account for the performance of the school and to check that the standards are met? Is governance evaluated by an external body? Does the school have a system for ensuring consistent compliance with the standards? Once again, we can help there. And then finally, do governors and the proprietor have a system of oversight to ensure that the standards are met? I hope you have found this useful, and I will see you soon on episode 3.